Hello, everyone. This is Howard Fox, and welcome back for another episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series, the podcast that celebrates individuals and families, businesses, and organizations that seek out and promote the exploration, stewardship, conservation, access, and enjoyment of the outdoors. I have a very special guest today. It's Colleen Miniuk. Colleen is an award-winning outdoor photographer and blogger. She's the author of numerous books, including Wild in Arizona, Photographing Arizona's Wildflowers, and Photographing Acadia National Park, The Essential Guide to When, Where, and How. But today is, again, very special because it's a pleasure to have Colleen back on the podcast to celebrate the release of her memoir, So Said the River, Life, Lost, and High on the Colorado. Colleen, it is always a pleasure to see you, even if it is virtual.
It's a pleasure and an honor to talk with you again, Howard. Thank you for all you do for the outdoor community.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And for our listeners, some of you will see this eventually, but Colleen has the most wonderful photo as her backdrop to this episode. And now I have one which I use
As
all
do
the time,
you.
as do
Yeah.
I. Colleen, please share with our listeners and describe, if you could, what are we looking at behind you there?
This is a photograph from my Grand Canyon rafting photography retreat from last year. That was my 8th trip in 8 years. I love it so much. I keep going back. But this is a sunrise photograph. We were motoring down the river. I would say probably around mile 50, mile 40, mile 50, somewhere in there. We lose track of time. We lose track of miles when we're down in the bottom of the Grand Canyon when we're on the Colorado River. And it was, like I said, it was early morning, sunrise. We were on the boat. So we're actually moving when I made this photograph. And there's a little bit of a reflection of the rock, the illuminated rock. There's a shaft of light coming right over the rim on the left-hand side, and it's illuminating the rock on the right-hand side. And it's a grand cathedral. It made me feel like we were in the grandest of places. It's a
Wow.
gorgeous morning.
And I have to say, I need to put it on my to-do list that I am going to attend one of your quote unquote co-ed events that
Yes.
is taking your clients down the Colorado River because I mean, I get to see it here in Las Vegas. I've traveled
Sure.
down between Boulder City, Lake Mead, Boulder City, down to Laughlin, but I need to see more of this. And the reason I love that you're on the show, we're going to chat about the book, but I've never met anyone that was in a relationship with, I was going to say inanimate, but that's not true. It's a live entity, and you are in love with the Colorado.
Absolutely. The Colorado River, she is very much alive, and she has just such a spunky, feisty spirit. And so, yeah, I would love for you to join me on one of my rafting trips. It's a very different experience than seeing it from the rim. And I know a lot of people, a lot of visitors, tourists alike, see the Grand Canyon from the rim, and it is magnificent, right? That's not even a word that covers it. It is just, it's remarkable. I mean, words can't really describe it. But when you are on a raft and you are in it, you are a part of the layers, you're part of the rock, you're part of the flora and the fauna and the water and the history. You've disconnected from society
Mhm.
for however long. And so there's no phones, there's no news, there's no showers, there's no napkins. And you realize how very little you need to get by to find joy and fulfillment and discovery. And so it is, like I said, I'm going down for the 9th time in 9 years. I have my 10th trip already booked for next year. And so it is an experience that I really like repeating because you learn something new every single time. It never disappoints. It's always grand in a different way. And I love connecting people to the river. And so I would love if you would join us sometime. We'll have to work that out.
We'll have to work that out. As you were describing the river a few seconds ago, the word vulnerability just popped into my head. And and then another book popped into my head called Getting Naked by Patrick Lencioni.
Okay.
But the idea of getting naked, vulnerability is just that. You let go of all the trappings that we're so used to building up around us, and you are at the mercy of this body of water. You're at the mercy of the weather, the location, the everything that's around you, and you have to be willing to accept it and be a little bit out of control and realizing you are amongst colleagues, friends, but you are out there by yourself in a way.
Absolutely. I mean, you want to be prepared, you want to be confident, but there's also a healthy level of fear and respect that we should have for our these natural environments. And the river herself is very vulnerable to how she is managed, how she is utilized by humans.
Mhm,
And we can feel that when we're down in the Grand Canyon, when we're with her, and we get to feel that in our own way. We get to feel our own vulnerabilities.
mhm.
We You just kind of get stripped to the core, right?
Yeah.
And you really start to figure out what matters to you. That's something I talk about in the later chapters of the book is when I was down there on my first trip, I realized that, like, all of this was so incredibly grand. It had been some of the rock was hundreds of million-year old. We hadn't gotten to the billion-year-old rock yet. But, like, really in the grand scheme of things, what matters? And you get to decide in a place like the Grand Canyon and the Colorado
Mhm,
River, you get to decide without having all of the voices of society inundating you. And so my answer at least changed fairly
mhm.
significantly when I was removed from those voices. And so that's why I think places like this, connecting with nature in general, you don't have to go to the Grand Canyon to get those sorts of experiences with nature. I think they're so important to our mental health and to our overall fulfillment as human beings.
Well, most definitely. When you were on the podcast back, it was literally like 3 years ago,
Oh, wow.
2021, we published episode 56 on June 3rd, so June
Oh,
30th. So
wow.
just a little over 3 years, and a lot of the stories were about you, your background, which I will always do during the podcast, and then we kinda talked about your work, we chatted about that. You shared a little bit of some of the journey, and I'm wondering when did this idea of "So Said the River" start to percolate that it's time to write a memoir? And when did that start to percolate and take shape for you?
Sure. When I was starting to go through some of my life challenges, really starting around 2013,
Mm,
2014, I was journaling to kind of
mhm,
sort through life and get through some of the issues that I was having. I was continuing to journal through 2015 when I separated from my ex-husband, and I was taking notes throughout that year as I was acquiring my brand new stand-up paddleboard, my first ever. I was writing stories about falling in on my 40th birthday. I was writing stories about my mom and I going out in October for our trial run. But at that time, I was just trying to get through life, quite honestly.
right,
When we started, my mom and I started our paddle in November of 2015. I did have the idea that I wanted to write this nice little adventure story about mom and me, two girl power, two women going out there and doing an adventure and inspiring other women, inspiring others in general is a big part of what I do anyway, through my workshops and through my other books and things like my speaking engagements, things like that. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get women fired up to be outside. And the trip was supposed to go for 14 days. We ended up getting into trouble on day 4 and our trip was cut short.
right.
And when I got home, I was writing through that process. I was writing through that trip. But when I got home, my head kind of exploded. My
Mhm.
perfectionist brain was not capable of comprehending that I had essentially, quote, failed twice in an 8-month time frame. And
Mhm.
what started hitting the page was very interesting, to say the least. And so I was pouring out my anger, I was pouring out my sadness, I was pouring out my pain, I was pouring out questions, I was pouring out just anything and everything that came to my mind. And so really, I would say right around 2017-ish, I published a first draft, and it is not the book that I intended to write, but it was a start, and it has evolved significantly. I thought the funny thing, or the funny thing is in 2017, I thought the story had ended, and
Uh-huh.
the story really didn't come to a conclusion, a logical conclusion, until 2021. So I had
Really?
5 more years that I was working on the narrative and the story. And so it this was not the book, like I said, that I intended to write, but it is absolutely the book that I needed to write for myself, and the one that I wanted to write to hopefully help other people through adversity and find fulfillment. And so it was an evolution for sure.
Okay. I don't know if I had read this in the book or a review. And when I think of memoirs, I always think about who writes memoirs. Bunch of older folks, maybe they're politicians, maybe they're, you know, actors or actresses whose time is long past, but you don't often see folks who are, and I'm a little bit older than you are, but within our age range. I'm very conscious of my age, which is that's an issue I have to work on. But usually memoirs are about the success of something I did, an accomplishment. I scaled Mount Kilimanjaro and hiked the 14,000
Yep.
peaks in Colorado. Your memoir was about navigating this pain and really hurt, and also then the rebirth and this new relationship you have, which God willing, it'll be around for a while. It'll long after you and I have gone. And I love the fact that you can share your story because other folks who are going through a similar pain of loss and uncertainty and questioning, why am I here? What am I doing? It can be really a game changer, I think, for them. So there's a lot for folks to take away. What are what I love too is your parents and your brother have been on this,
Mm.
and also some other friends have been
Mhm.
on this journey with you. What's been their take as you have been on this journey with the book and your love and really recreate creating who you are and what you do and what you're truly passionate about? What's been their take?
Well, I am very fortunate that they've been extraordinarily supportive through all of this, every bit of it. And my mom, goodness, coming near death on Lake Powell changed things for her. She
Mhm.
grew up in Florida and she was a water baby, right? She spent
Mhm.
a lot of her time in the ocean, and after the situation in Lake Powell, she decided that she wanted to hike. Like, she didn't wanna be on water anymore, and she has been on a number of my Grand Canyon rafting trips, and she's been on water in more controlled circumstances, but she decided that she wanted to hike, and so her and my dad have hiked over 1,800 miles of the Pacific Crest Trail in segments,
Wow.
and so that is the way that they've celebrated their authenticity. And I could go through every single character in the book and share their story of how they have overcome adversity, how they have embraced their own truth. And
Mhm.
I'd write a book about every single one of them because they were all so inspirational to me in this journey. And I think that's what the voices we need to listen to, right? Not the ones
Mhm.
that are telling us we're too whatever. It's the ones that are saying, "Hey, I see your pain and I'm here and I'm going to walk this with you. I can't fix it for you," right? Like
Mhm.
but I can be here. And that's what I feel like the book, the events in the book have really brought my innermost circle closer. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not afraid to tell my close friends that I love them, and love was something that I reserved for a single person, and
Mhm.
now I let the love free a lot more freely because I
Mhm.
do, right? Like, and we love each other for what we bring to each other's lives, and so I think my inner community has just been it's been really heartwarming. Like, it's just been it gives me all the warm feels right
Sure,
now.
sure.
I'm like, yeah.
I'm curious too, when when the book begins and you are out, you were celebrating your birthday, and, again, you've revisited the story of pie, and I know pie has very, strong symbolism for you, fond memories, and
And
in a little way, I get to share that because I got to know a little bit more about pie. But I remember the young lady that took you out on your first stand-up paddleboard, and it made me think about there's individuals who are gonna go out on excursions like this, who they're just in it for the excitement, the thrill. They're gonna finish and go on and do it somewhere else, another location. Whereas there's folks, and I'm gonna make a leap, what I hope is a correct logical leap. There's folks like yourself who are so taken by this environment and this experience and realize there's a new connection forming here, and they will potentially come year after year. And I'm thinking your classes that you take people out on the river,
Mhm.
and I imagine a lot of them come year after year if they can. And there's perhaps people that you have met along the way. They're in a similar, maybe not the same journey as you were on, but they felt there's this connection to the river, and it is so strong as they realize it's a part of their life. And I don't know if I'm kind of blowing smoke here, but I
No,
sense
no,
this
not at all.
connection. Yeah, I sense there's this connection, and you get to meet people who are going through their own journeys of the
Right,
self-discovery.
right, and I think that I'd like to believe that I attract people that lead their lives with curiosity and an appreciation for growth mindset, so
Mhm,
they are interested in becoming their own better human being through learning, through
mhm,
connecting, and that's connecting with nature, that's connecting with other people, that's connecting with the present moment, that's connecting with the experience at hand, and, I mean, even though I've been down the Grand Canyon 9 times, every single experience is different, and we
mhm,
learn something new about the world around us, about our community, our friends, our trip mates, our guides, and ourselves. And so every opportunity, every experience presents an opportunity to learn and to grow. And I think that if you if we can all go on these journeys, these trips for whatever reason. And if you're getting something out of it, maybe it is just pure excitement. Maybe you need to take a break from the world. Maybe you've just never seen a particular stretch of river, you've never
mhm,
seen a stretch of mountain, whatever that is. We all create our own meaning and our own reasons for doing things, and they're all
mhm.
valid, even if my reason may differ than yours or somebody
Right.
else's. And so I think just being open to opportunity, to learning is the biggest thing there.
Okay. Besides your mom and brother, father, who are some of the important cast of characters that you have introduced us to in the book that our readers would like to get to know?
Yeah, so the one who plays a fairly large role is my dear, dear friend, Guy Tall. He is a fellow photographer and writer. We are very different human beings, but we are philosophically aligned. So he's a remarkable photographer, a remarkable writer, but he writes more philosophy. He's a little bit more intense. Um, and I'm Bubbles, like I'm the other side of the coin, but it's like a yin and yang. And Guy was very instrumental early on in my journey to basically say, hey, look at this as an opportunity. Like your life isn't ending just because life didn't go the way you thought it was going to. And trust me,
Mhm.
I had everything planned. So
Of
like
course, you are the
I,
perfectionist. I'm sure you did.
perfectionist, spreadsheet loving, over planning. So
Right.
over planner. So yeah, Guy was really instrumental very early on in introducing this idea of the big life with the capital L. And it's where you would live with based on your own sensibilities and based on your own interests and free of expectations. And there's a whole list of things that I talk about in the book that relate to that. But it's essentially just finding your own voice. It's being authentic. And so, in addition to being an important part of my journey, he also contributed some photographs. He contributed the photo and the cover. And he wrote a very moving forward, a very moving meditation, which is in chapter 8 when we were launching on the river. So he's contributed. He's been a very loud voice in helping me find my own voice. But there's other characters like my dear college friends, Jen and Michael Raffaelli, who were instrumental in helping me connect with camping and the outdoors in general. There is my dear friends Chris and Susan from college who introduced me to stand up paddleboarding. Bruce Hucko, who is also a phenomenal photographer and author, he painted the maps for me. I have 6 maps in the book, and he hand painted watercolor
Those
paintings, and
those are
so
gorgeous, by the way. I love those. And I was trying to as I was getting the one near, Lake Mead, which is behind me, I'm thinking,
yeah.
"Okay, where is that? Where is that?"
Yeah. Yeah, I bet. Yeah, no, they're absolutely stunning, but I mean, the amount of work that went into that is remarkable. I I I have like it's like a very long acknowledgement page because I have so many people
Sure.
that were part of this journey. So from my river guides um to writing coaches to I mean, there were so many voices for me that were instrumental in helping me get through what it was basically my darkest time.
Okay. So I'm curious, how did you let the river know, "This is what I'm doing. It's gonna be about us."
Yeah, so I mean, I when I declared on my 40th birthday that I was going to continue following the Colorado River after I fell in and didn't hyperventilate for the first time in my 40
Mhm.
years of life, I went back in August to meet the river in Lake Powell form and at Lone Rock. And I described this in chapter 6. I think it's 5 or 6. Oh, maybe it's chapter 4. It's when I go, I never remember which it is. It's let's see,
I
chapter
should put the
5.
Jeopardy, tune on. Da, 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 da,
Right.
da.
Where is that? You think I'd have this memorized, right? So chapter 5 in August of 2015, I go to the river and I basically introduce myself. I introduced Lear, which is the name of my stand-up paddleboard. It was new at the time.
Mhm.
I had only been on it for about a month at that time. And I kind of had this moment where I'm paddling around Lone Rock and I'm just saying, we're going to do this journey. And I'm thinking through things. And the universe decides to put me in a thunderstorm, a
Mhm.
monsoon storm, like multiple back-to-back monsoon storms. And so kind of after that happened, I was like, "Oh, this could get stormy."
Mhm.
And it did.
I love it. So, as you have released this book, what feelings are have changed for you? Because it's a monumental effort. And you're no stranger to publishing, okay? You're no stranger to writing, the photography, the creation, but again, this is vulnerability. This is getting naked. And what has changed for you as a result of this?
That's a really good question, Howard. I think this has given me this has increased my confidence in being exactly who I am. And I hope that that filters through and increasing other people's confidence to be who they are. I mean, for 40 years, I lived behind a curtain. I lived behind this facade of perfectionism and
Mm.
thinking that I had to present a certain personality and I had to do certain things to make everybody else happy. And so through the book, I'm starting to find my own kind of way.
Hmm.
But when you're writing the book, it's on your laptop, on your lap while you're sitting in a chair. Like it's still very contained. And so declaring for myself that I'm, confident in who I am is one thing, why as you're writing the pages, but then sending it out to the world and saying like, here's what happened. Here's how
Hmm.
I handled it. And this is who I am right now. That was terrifying. But also ridiculously rewarding.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I felt free as I was writing the book. I felt free because of certain events. Nothing has felt freer. I mean, I
Hmm.
just it it feels so good to present exactly who I am without having this expectation that I'm going to be something or do something or it's been freeing. And I really hope that I can enable that for people who might not ever have ever felt that or aren't feeling that. I hope that I can inspire that somehow.
Excellent. I love that. I am curious again. I'm incredibly curious today. I've been coaching all day, so I always say I'm
It's good. I
curious.
love it. That's why we're friends.
There you
Because
go.
curiosity matters. Yeah.
Yes, it does matter. Is there a place along the river, and obviously Lake Powell, it's huge. I never knew it was so susceptible to to the storms and the monsoons
Mhm.
that go through, and Lake Mead. Um,
Mhm.
I just never truly appreciated it. However, are there places along the river that have special meaning for you?
Oh, sure. I mean, every little camp that I've been to is meaningful, but one that I just went back to just within the last 2 weeks, I returned to the North Wash Dirty Devil takeout, and it's a takeout for the rafters, but that's where my mom and I started our
Mhm.
journey, and so that for me is where I kind of have this reverence of pushing off the shore and moving into new water. So it's a very symbolic
Mhm.
transition for me. It's November 2015, but I also returned there in May of 2016 and I return there every now and then. And so like I said, I was just there 2 weeks ago and kind of ended up having like a little ceremony to introduce my book to the river. And it
Okay.
was really meaningful. It feels like I'm launching into new shores right now. So I couldn't imagine a more meaningful place to do this. But, I think every spot that I've created a memory is important to me. It's meaningful to me.
Excellent. And I love the christening. I was watching that, so that was pretty
Yeah,
special.
baptizing the book, yeah.
There you go. There you go. And so what has been the reaction to the book thus far? I mean, the reviews are coming in. Folks perhaps that you don't know, or maybe you do know them, but they're just acquaintances. They're not really just real strong friends. What's been the reaction?
Yeah, this has been the overwhelming part. So this is evidence and proof that I have the absolute best community in the whole world. It has been unbelievably amazing. Like it's been people have had very, very positive reactions, very positive experiences with it. I get notes. I get like 3 to 4 notes a day for like the last month, 5 weeks about how they're looking at life just a little bit differently or that they were afraid. They were struggling and were afraid to communicate it publicly and were kind of isolated. And I mean, I, Howard, I cry. Like it is so moving. Hearing from people that I don't know is has been equally incredible. I mean, these people don't know me from an apple on the street, right? Like they don't know me from anything. And so to hear that they've read it, they've enjoyed the adventure, they've connected with it in their own way,
Mhm.
it's been so moving. It's been so heartwarming and just yeah, I just trying to
That
soak it
is
all in.
that is so great to see, and it's a wonderful journey, and, between 2015 and 9 years later, life changes. We never know how, and, I love that, and just a wonderful book, and again, congratulations for it,
Thank
and
you.
look forward to hearing more about how it's being received, and, so thank you for that, for joining us.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the book is really evidence that some pretty remarkable and amazing things can come out of hardship.
Yep,
And so for people who are struggling, keep paddling.
yep.
It's you can do this. So yeah, so thank you so much, Howard, for giving me the platform and the opportunity to talk with you about it today.
Oh, it is our pleasure. And before we leave, Colleen, if we would like to send our listeners to your website to learn more about you and your work, so said the river, where should we send them?
Yeah, so if you'd like to learn more about my work, my photography workshops, the best place to go is my website at colleenminiuk.com. So www.colleenminiuk.com. If you'd like to learn more about the book, you can hear the prologue if you would like. You can see some additional pictures, read some of those additional testimonials. You can go to sosaidtheriver.com.
Excellent. Well, we will provide those backlinks, and I'm sure there's some social sites as well. Colleen, thank you so much again, and it's always great to catch up with you. We only typically get to do this at a conference, which you will not be at a conference coming up in September. But I look forward to staying in touch even more because as I was going through the book, and especially as I see the river behind you right now, and I want to experience it very much so, and I look forward to having a conversation to figure out how that can happen. So again,
Absolutely.
yes. So again, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you, Howard. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
All right. Listen, stay in the line. We're going to do a real quick close and you're not going to have a final chat. All right, folks. Just been chatting with a good friend, fellow OWAA. That's an Outdoor Writers Association of America a member. This is how, when I got involved with the OWAA and I began the outdoor podcast, Colleen was one of my first guests. And it was very special and really loved the conversations. And then this book, So Said the River, Life, Loss, and Pie on the Colorado came out. And really just a celebration of her journey and really this we can change, we can accomplish things that we hadn't thought we could accomplish. And then there's also the relationship and this relationship between Colleen and this wonderful river, this resource, the Colorado. And the more stories about that. I mean, well, I'm not even going to go into that because that's my story. This is all about Colleen. But do visit her on our website. We've got colleenminiuk.com. We'll provide backlink to it as well as to the book website, So Said the River. Do go out, get the book, leave a review, good review, because I thought it was a great book. So we want 5-star reviews, folks. And
Absolutely.
absolutely. And let Colleen know what you think. If this has really prompted you to venture out of your comfort zone, I'm sure she would love to hear that as well. And you can also share that on our website and when you make a comment. Now, as far as this episode is concerned, you can find it on the outdooradventureseries.com webpage. It'll be up in the coming weeks. You can find us on LinkedIn and Facebook on our Outdoor Adventure Series pages. We are on YouTube, Instagram, and of course, all of the major podcast platforms. So wherever you get your podcasts, just search for Outdoor Adventure Series and you will find us. Okay, folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go out there, have a phenomenal day. It's Friday and it's 5 o'clock somewhere, and just take care of yourselves, your family, do good, and we will look forward to having you on a future episode. of the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast. Take care now.